Welcome back to the cryptoworld channel, everyone. My name is Josh, and right now, while Bitcoin is still playing out this short-term bearish divergence, the price is now forming a new pattern, which could set up a new price target. So I'll be talking about that in just a moment, alongside Ethereum, which just confirmed a new warning signal, despite the price breaking out on the larger timeframes. So I'll be talking about all of that and more later in the video, so definitely watch to the end. First of all, starting off on the weekly Bitcoin chart, and right now the price of Bitcoin is still trading above this golden pocket, which is sitting in between around 48,000 to 50,000, and that area should now act as new support for the price of Bitcoin. And so just in case we continue to see a bit of a short-term pullback, once again, I would expect support around that area, and for as long as the price of Bitcoin is holding above around 48,000, we're still looking very bullish here on the weekly time frame in terms of the larger trend at play. And so over the last one day, nothing has really changed here on the weekly time frame, and something similar can be said about the 3-day Bitcoin chart, which is still playing out that short-term cool-off, basically a sideways consolidation after that extreme volatile move to the upside, which so far is still playing out as expected. Because over the last few weeks or so, since all the way back down here at around 42k, I said we're most likely going to see a quick volatile move pretty much straight to the upside in between 51 to 55k as a price target, which is exactly what happened. And then from there, I said I most likely expect either a sideways consolidation or a slight pullback, basically a break from all of that extreme bullish price action, which so far is playing out, and I continue to expect that type of price action, at least in the short term. And so once again, I still expect a bit of a short-term cool-off from all of that bullish price action, but not necessarily the reversal out of the bullish trend, because remember, during this larger bullish trend, we can still see short-term pullbacks and sideways consolidations here and there during a bullish trend. And so ultimately, after we finish playing out this sideways consolidation, or even after a bit of a pullback, either way, I do ultimately expect the trend to continue further to the upside later on at some point. But if we're taking a look at the daily Bitcoin chart, as of right now, we're still seeing a little bit of short-term bearish momentum here in the daily Bitcoin MACD, because as I said a few days ago here on the channel, we recently just saw a bearish cross confirmed in the daily Bitcoin MACD, which once again means we don't really have a lot of bullish momentum in the short term, and in fact, we're starting to see a little bit of bearish momentum, at least in the shorter term here. Because if we're taking a look at the last couple of times where we saw a bearish cross confirm in the daily Bitcoin MACD, this has happened usually around time periods where the price kind of stops going to the upside, at least in the short term. And so we usually see either some sort of sideways consolidation or even a bit of a pullback in the short term before we could potentially continue that larger bullish trend further to the upside later on. And so once again, that's what I'm still expecting and is still playing out as expected, a bit of a short-term cool-off from all of that previous bullish price action, but then eventually we're likely going to see the continuation of that bullish trend. And also, while the price is consolidating sideways, basically cooling off from that bullish price action, this is helping to reset the RSI on the daily time frame out of those overbought territories and back down towards more neutral levels. And so this is great to see as well for the larger bullish trend, because if the RSI resets further to the downside, that gives us more room to the upside later on. Because if we're taking a look at these massive bullish moves to the upside, pretty much all of those started when the RSI was actually back down towards more neutral levels. Whereas if the RSI is already very overbought on the daily time frame, if you're looking at where the price went next from those overbought territories, yeah, we can go a little bit higher, but usually the upside is somewhat limited, at least in the short term, if the RSI is overbought. And so once again, it would actually be a good thing for Bitcoin if we continue to see a bit of a cool off to help reset the RSI, giving us much more room to the upside later on. And if we're zooming into the shorter term, looking at the 4-hour time frame, obviously over the last 1 week or so, we've seen this short-term bearish divergence play out as expected, because one of the most likely outcomes from a bearish divergence is indeed choppy sideways price action. And at least for now, while the RSI is still kind of trending to the downside on the 4-hour time frame, technically this bearish divergence is still playing out, but eventually, possibly in the coming days, this RSI could invalidate the bearish divergence if we see more of a bullish reversal, basically higher lows and higher highs beginning to form in the 4-hour Bitcoin RSI. But at least for now, once again, the price is still in this choppy sideways price range, looking relatively neutral, at least in the short term, with this area of support sitting in between around 50.5k to 51k, and this level of resistance sitting at around 52,500. And so you can think of this area of support as where there's a lot of buyers waiting to buy Bitcoin. So anytime the price of Bitcoin enters into that price range, we usually see the price get bought up, and vice versa. If the price runs into this level of resistance, we usually see a lot of sellers coming into play, selling Bitcoin around 52,500, at least in the shorter term here. And now, obviously, eventually at some point, the price will either break below this support or above this resistance. And at that point, that is when we could flip much more bullish or much more bearish again, at least in the short term. But for now, we're still in a choppy sideways price range, looking relatively neutral. And just before talking about some other important Bitcoin and Ethereum charts, of course, if we break to the upside or to the downside, we can make profits in either scenario with long positions or short positions. And personally, I take trades just like that over on Bybit. So I'll make sure to leave a link to Bybit in the description down below and in the pinned comment. And if you use that link down below this video to make a Bybit account and deposit on that account, you can get up to a $30,000 deposit bonus, but only if you use that link down below this video. But for whatever reason, if you cannot access Bybit or if you cannot KYC on Bybit, there is also Bitflex, which is another crypto exchange similar to Bybit, but you don't need KYC for Bitflex. And also right now, there is an exclusive Apple Watch giveaway happening over at Bitflex, but only if you use the link down below this video. And so if you're trading crypto anyway, or if you're preparing to take the next trade, you might as well get set up or ready to go on one of those exchanges using those links down below this video if you want to get those extra bonuses or enter that giveaway. But anyway, once again, right now the price is looking relatively neutral in the short term, but if we break below this support, then we would flip more bearish in the short term with a price target down towards around 49,000, but another level of support at around 50,000. And of course, if we break out above around 52,500, that would be the bullish confirmation signal, basically signaling the continuation of this much larger bullish trend here on the weekly time frame. And so for now, we just need to wait and see for one of those signals to confirm. And until then, once again, we're looking relatively neutral in the short term. And while the price is basically chopping around sideways, we're actually forming a possible bullish flag pattern also here on the 4-hour Bitcoin chart. Because obviously, as you can see right here, we have a slightly descending parallel channel with a descending line of resistance and a descending line of support. And right now, this line of support is sitting at around 50,500 approximately, with this line of resistance actually sitting at around 52.2K. And of course, with this forming just after a volatile move to the upside, that creates a bullish flag pattern. And basically, this pattern confirms if we see a confirmed breakout with candle closes above this resistance. And now, ideally, we need to actually see a breakout above this resistance at around 52,500. But if we do end up seeing that happening, if we see that bullish breakout, then if we're taking a look at a potential price target for this bullish flag pattern, just a conservative price target, looking at a smaller bull flag pattern right here, of course, that would set up a bullish price target at around 54.6K to 54.7K. And so from the point of the breakout to that price target, we're looking at around a 4 to 5% move to the upside. But of course, we can take a look at a larger price target if we're measuring a larger flagpole. And so that will just be an initial price target to pay attention to, one of the first price targets that we could hit, once again at around 54.7K approximately, but only if we first confirm a breakout above around 52,500, which as of right now has not yet happened. And also here on the 4-hour Bitcoin chart, we have a potential inverse head and shoulders pattern with this left shoulder, this head, and right now we're possibly forming a right shoulder. But for this pattern to complete, we need to see a bounce sometime soon over the next 1 to 2 days or so, and then a breakout above this level sitting at around 51.8K approximately. But ultimately, that will just give us a price target even smaller than this price target. And of course, we'll still need to break out above this resistance at around 52,500, which is still an important obstacle to pay attention to. And if we're taking a quick look at the Bitcoin liquidation heat map, just in the shorter term here, we have a lot of liquidity the price just took out to the downside, and some we just took out to the upside, but we still have some important areas to pay attention to. For example, we have this level of liquidity sitting at around 50.5K that we still need to pay attention to, but we also now have this major area of liquidity building to the upside, sitting in between around 52,000 going up towards around 52.3K. And so basically right at the lower side of this level of support, we have a lot of liquidity, and just before this line of resistance, we have a lot of liquidity right there. And in case you're new to all of this, usually where we have the most liquidity, those areas attract the price of Bitcoin towards where there's most liquidity. And so once again, we could continue to see the price basically chop around sideways in this sideways price range, hitting those areas of liquidity before making the next major move. And of course, today, the US stock market opens back up again, which means the Bitcoin ETFs begin trading again today. But as of right now, at least as of recording this video, we do not yet have the numbers for the ETFs for inflows or outflows. But as always, I'll keep you up to date in real time over on my Twitter, link down below in the description and in the pinned comment. And as always, I'll keep you up to date here in these videos. So in my next video, I'll be sharing the new numbers from the Bitcoin ETFs. And so as always, make sure you subscribe to this channel with notifications turned on so that you don't miss out on any of these important update videos. And if we're taking a quick look at the price of ETH on the weekly time frame, of course, we're still continuing that breakout to the upside on the much larger time frames, well above the golden pocket, which is still sitting in between around 2.5k to 2.7k approximately. And so once again, as I've been saying this entire time, on the larger time frames, I'm still extremely bullish on the price of ETH, especially in terms of the larger trend at play. But obviously, it's important to keep in mind that during a larger bullish trend, we can experience short-term pullbacks and sideways consolidations on smaller time frames during a larger bullish trend. But as of right now, the main area of resistance to pay attention to on the larger time frames is an area in between around 3.4k to 3.5k based on this Fibonacci level, the 78.6% Fibonacci level of resistance at around 3.4k, and also this previous high sitting at around 3.5k acting as resistance. And so that could potentially be the final significant obstacle for the price of ETH on the larger timeframes before we can start targeting the all-time high. And of course, this golden pocket, like I said, for Bitcoin should also be acting as support for Ethereum, like what we saw in Q1 of 2022. And so just in case we see any sort of significant pullback in the short term, once again, I would expect a lot of support around that area. And if we're taking a look at the daily time frame, of course, right now, and as I've said over the last 1 week or so, we're losing a little bit of bullish momentum, at least in the shorter term in the MACD. And so due to that, obviously, if you're looking at the slope of the price action, we're starting to slow down as of the last 1 week or so. But obviously, as I've also been saying over the last 1 week, even though we've lost some bullish momentum, of course, we have not really lost a lot of bullish momentum, and we have definitely not confirmed any bearish trend reversal. And so once again, as I've been saying, overall, we're still looking more bullish than bearish. It's just in the shorter term, we are currently slowing down at least a little bit. And part of that could be due to the fact that the RSI on the daily time frame is still currently overbought, which once again means, at least in the shorter term, we have somewhat limited room to the upside. Because if you're simply looking at the other times where the RSI on the daily time frame was overbought, that usually happened just before either a sideways consolidation or a slight pullback, but not necessarily the end of the bullish trend. And so once again, sometime soon, I do expect some sort of short-term cool-off, basically a bit of a break from all of that bullish price action, but that could potentially happen before the continuation of the bullish trend later on. And if we're zooming into the 8-hour time frame, of course, right now we've just confirmed a new bearish divergence on the 8-hour chart because the price has set a new higher high in place in the 8-hour candle closes, while the RSI has just confirmed a new lower high in place in the 8-hour Ethereum RSI. And so once again, even while the price is forming higher highs, if the RSI is still forming lower highs, there's still a bearish divergence here. And so once again, this is technically a sign of weakness, at least in the short term for this bullish trend, which means we usually see either choppy sideways price action or possibly a slight pullback as the most common outcomes from a bearish divergence. And remember, even if we form a new higher high again, if the RSI is still sitting in lower highs, that could just reconfirm a new bearish divergence. And so what we would ultimately need to see in order to invalidate this bearish divergence altogether is actually a strong breakout in the RSI above one of these previous highs in order to confirm higher highs in the RSI and higher highs in the price. But anyway, at least for now, once again, at least with one 8-hour candle close, we have got one confirmation for this new bearish divergence, which means we're most likely going to see at least a little bit of a pause from all of that bullish price action in the short term. But if we're taking a look at this previous bearish divergence that we saw right here, that played out in the form of choppy sideways price action over around half a week or so before we actually saw another move to the upside. And so just keep that in mind as well. Obviously, this could just play out over the next few days, possibly over around a week or so, but then eventually I do expect the continuation of that larger bullish trend at some point. And so overall, just to sum it up, on the larger timeframes, in terms of the larger trend, I'm very bullish. It's just in the immediate short term, we could see a bit of a break from that bullish trend. And as for short-term support, we do have support right here based on the 8-hour candle closes, sitting at around 29.20. And below that, we have this area of support sitting in between around 28.40, going up towards around 28.70, acting as support. And we could also find a bit of short-term support at this previous level of resistance, now acting as new support at around 30.20, so just above 3K. And if we're taking a quick look at the price of Solana on the 8-hour time frame, technically speaking, this break to the downside for this head and shoulders pattern, which is a bearish pattern, is still active because as of right now, we have not yet confirmed a breakout back above this golden pocket, sitting in between around $105 to $107. And so as of right now, we still technically have this bearish price target in play at around $94 to $95. But as I've also mentioned over the last half a week or so, obviously we are running into this short-term level of support at around $99 to $100. And so also just to keep that in mind, in the short term, we could actually be entering into a bit of a sideways price range in between around $99 acting as support and this golden pocket at around $105 to $107 acting as resistance. And so if that's the case, if we're just going to chop around sideways, as of right now, I'm still actually holding part of that short position that I entered back here at that initial break to the downside. And while the price is actually chopping around sideways, if the price is neutral, I'm still making money on that short position because the funding rates are quite positive right now, which means the funding rates are paying me interest on that position. And as I've also mentioned over the last half a week or so, I've already taken a decent amount of profits off that table for that short position right around this level of support at around $99 to $100. And ultimately, I'd close the rest of that position if we actually invalidate that break to the downside by seeing a breakout back above that golden pocket. In that scenario, I'd close that position altogether. But once again, considering I've already closed a decent amount of that short position in profits, even in that worst case scenario, as of right now in my position, this is still a profitable trade. And so once again, if you want to take trades just like this or the trade that I took for Ethereum, which I also shared here on the channel as soon as I opened that long position, then make sure to check out those links down below this video to those exchanges where I actually trade on. If you want to get those extra bonuses, once again, use those links down below this video. And if you want to actually know how to take these trades in the price of any crypto, no matter if we're bullish, bearish, or chopping around sideways, then make sure to watch these videos popping up right here on your screen. The video in the top left shows you how you can profit from bullish or bearish price action using long positions or short positions, and the video in the bottom left shows you how you can easily profit from choppy sideways price action. But anyway, that is everything that I have to say for today. I really hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next video.